Hello everyone, David Jays here. Now, some of our guests on this podcast are people I consider geniuses. Some of them, I suspect, privately consider themselves to be geniuses. But today, for the first time on Why Dance Matters, the Royal Academy of Dance podcast, we're meeting a certified genius. Patrick Makuakane, dance maker, teacher, hula master, recently received a grant from the MacArthur Foundation. The generously funded awards are made to preeminent artists in their field and are popularly known as the Genius Awards because that's who gets them. So it's official. Patrick Makuakane is a genius and he's our guest today. He's also funny, thoughtful, and a passionate advocate for a form of dance that too rarely gets its glory. Hula is, of course, intimately linked with Hawaii's history and culture. Patrick was born on the islands and came reluctantly to the art form that has since become his life. He's now based in San Francisco, where he founded his company called Nā Lei Hulu and where he has built a community of dancers and students to explore hula with him. The MacArthur Foundation recognised the significance of this work, and Patrick is already exploring projects to make the most of the award. He speaks to us from Hawaii, where he's on his initial research trip. Dance clearly means a huge amount to Patrick. Let's hear why. Patrick, welcome to Why Dance Matters. It's a pleasure to have you here. And here in London, it's grey, it's chilly, it's damp, it's early in the morning. Where you are, it's evening in Hawaii, the islands of dreams. Paint us a picture of what it's like if you step outside your door.
I'm so glad you asked, because traditionally I have to welcome you, and especially now that I am here in Hawaii, I really should welcome you the traditional way, which paints a picture of where I am living. How fortunate for both of us. Are you ready? O kavena ula I te au malama o kamalama maila o kalamaku hu mai kama malu kle hu I te o wa o hu wali kanoi ka pa ahu ona ko o hea o e ku vehi li le hua wa kau ke ha I kaluna ulu vehi o ka ala I vehi ia ina Lei Hulu I te vehi ki hiu welo ka ake o I ku umaka nā ka hanua ala o talaua mo ni mau te ahi amo oi no ku me aloha he ma ane I mai. It's a traditional Hawaiian way of saying hello people. Good morning.
That is an impressive way of saying hello, people. That's beautiful. Thank you. So I have to congratulate you. I have to call you a genius, whether you like it or not, because you've won the MacArthur Foundation Award, which is known popularly as the Genius Grant. What has that emotional journey been like in the months since it appeared out of the blue? Because it's not something you apply for. It's conferred on you without warning.
Right. So when you finally hear the news, it's shocking. I mean, it's shocking. You're not expecting this. You're not expecting anyone to call you up to say, hello, you just won a MacArthur Fellowship. I mean, I was at Burning Man. I'm out there stuck at Burning Man with plastic bags over my foot, marching to get to a place where I can actually make a phone call because there's no Wi-Fi, right? She's telling me from the MacArthur Foundation, please call me back. It's important. It's timely. You must call me back. I need to speak to you personally. And then she never answers her phone when I do call her. When I hike the 10 blocks to call her back. So it was a frustrating experience for about 5 days until I got back to San Francisco and we were finally able to have that phone call.
Wow. And since then, of course, loads of attention, loads, I'm sure, of everyone you've ever met being excited for you and getting in touch. Has it been easy to process all of that?
I wouldn't say easy. It's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have. It's a good challenge to surmount. There's been a lot of introspection. And one of the things that happened for me was, and I talked about this with two other fellows, an African American woman and a Hispanic woman. And of the three of us, because of our work, we're so entrenched in communities that each of us almost felt guilty because there are many people who we stand upon their shoulders in order to be in this position. And many people in our communities would deserve this award as well. So you're thinking, oh gosh, why me? Why was I chosen? And as a friend reminded me, but you are Blanche, you are. So get out there, shut up, and do good things. Okay. So you can't spend a lot of time on that. You really have to just think about what can you do with this that will make a difference. I'm still processing it. It hasn't really sunk in fully.
And of course, the fellowship is for your work with hula, preserving it, moving the form on, sharing it, teaching it. It's, as is the case probably with every style of dance, ballet, tap, whatever, people have very stereotypical images as soon as they hear the word, and hula is no different. What do you wish we could know about hula?
It's really a challenging answer for such a short period of time, because hula is something for those of us in the business of hula. I mean, we've spent all our lives here so crafting our space, and hula has been such a connecting force to our past, to our history, and to mainly, especially for me, and I'll speak for myself when I say this, although I know many others will agree, most importantly, to community, to developing, to nurturing, to sustaining a community. Because once you have that community all together, everyone who has the same goals and everyone recognizing that it's the needs of the community that are higher than the individual, and all of us out there for the same purpose, dancing and singing throughout, it's a really incredibly powerful way of moving through life. There's so much agency in what we do. And that's because it's connected to the community. It's connected to history. It's connected to, culture. I always say that hula is, my statistics change all the time, but this year I'm saying 40% dance and 60% culture and other things, because it's so involved.
As you mentioned, you're back in Hawaii. You grew up in Honolulu. Does it feel very different now that you're back, or are you plunged straight back into childhood?
Honolulu is very different. Hawaii is very different in good ways and in ways that are not so good. So I'm on Hawaii Island, which is, many people call it the Big Island because it's the biggest island. And I'm doing some work here. But I was born and raised on the island of Oahu, and I love Oahu. When I moved to San Francisco, and every time I would go back, I would be able to appreciate it in ways that I never did when I was living there. It's like, wow, Oahu is really beautiful. Look at those mountains. You mean to tell me that I lived in the shadow of those mountains for 2 decades and I never really looked at that mountain like, damn, that is a gorgeous peach of nature. California is beautiful. They have stunning landscapes, but it's not as beautiful as Hawaii. So I learned to appreciate things more and more after I've left. A lot of building, a lot of traffic, and all those things that come with modernity. But another thing that really happened that is just really phenomenal is that there's been this renewed interest in language, in all things culture, academically. So instead of just having people who are cultural practitioners, now we have cultural practitioners who are academics. So they're really sort of bridging both worlds together, and it makes for a very mindful, thoughtful, smart person. We have a lot of those people in Hawaii. And I see these young people today at my age, I didn't know Dink, and they're just speaking Hawaiian and singing and dancing and telling stories, and they know about this and that and everything that I did not know about. Okay, I'm kind of jealous, but I say, hey, who opened the door for you? You're welcome.
So when you were growing up, was it less cool to be excited and exploring Hawaiian culture and language? Was that not really what what the kids were doing?
Actually, it was cool to be Hawaiian. I was Hawaiian. I mean, and I thought it was pretty damn cool. I couldn't articulate why I was cool, but I knew, hey, part of the host culture. I'm Hawaiian, got a Hawaiian last name. I don't really do anything Hawaiian because we sort of gave that up. My grandmother stopped speaking Hawaiian because when Hawaii became a state, people in her generation thought, well, we need to put the Hawaiian things in the back burner. We need to become American in order to get ahead in this life. So she stopped speaking the language, and so did many others. And contained in the language, there's so much information on the culture, how to behave, about place names, where you live, and how to even eat, and how to like raise children. I mean, all of that is just really put into the language for a reason that makes sense. And we were losing that language until finally a group of people got together and said, hey, we're about to like Olelo Hawaii, the Hawaiian language is about to be snuffed out. So when they started with like children, and that built over time. And now there's high schools and colleges all speaking Olelo Hawaii or Hawaiian language. And that's a huge difference from when I was growing up, where there was nothing. Interest in language, but really a renewed interest in hula when I was, what, 14, 15. That's when it started. That's a time that historians like to call the Hawaiian Cultural Renaissance, because there was a renewed interest in hula, in music, in wayfaring, canoe paddling, and whatnot. So many young kids at that time, 15, 16, 17, about my age, we were exploring our native identity, and we didn't know how or where to discover ourselves. So fortunately, hula was the door that said, come on in, kids. I'll tell you. I'll tell you about yourself. I'll tell you about your family. I'll tell you about these mountains behind you. I'll tell you why that word is this, and on and on. Hula was like this buffet that just did not stop giving. It really taught me who I was as a Hawaiian. Everything that I needed to know about culture came from hula. And so, in answer to your question, it was really pretty damn cool to be able to get that. Now, dancing hula as a man back then was just like, oh, well, really interesting. A man dancing hula, which in and of itself I call was a political act in the 70s. But it got very popular because around the 60s, mostly women were dancing hula. You wouldn't see much men. But in the 70s and 80s, there was a prominence of male hula schools, and then the men became the stars of hula. So that was kind of fun riding that wave. And my teacher, he developed a halau, or a school that was for men only. So we were like one of the first schools that were men only, and we'll be celebrating our 50th year anniversary next year. So it's pretty amazing that we've come this far. So yes, very cool, David. It was super cool.
I'm sorry I ever questioned that, because it's evident. I gather that your very first encounters with hula you weren't sure about. It's just something we've heard from ballet dancers, from dancers in other styles as well.
Oh my, yeah. It was an immersive week of culture that happens when you're 10 years old, put on by Kamehameha Schools. And it's called Kamehameha Schools Exploration. And you get to live at the school for a week and you meet other Hawaiian children. It was like such an incredibly enriching, fulfilling week. And you learn Hawaiian sports and Hawaiian, how to play the ukulele and songs and whatnot. It's just like totally immersive. And of course, you have a hula class. And that's the one thing I hated. I hated the hula class because of the teacher, because the teacher was quite flamboyant and comfortable with himself, and he made me uncomfortable. And now I look back, it's because my own internalized homophobia. I was like, oh my God, that's going to be me, and what's wrong with that? But anyway, but he scared me, big sassy thing, him. And it's ironic because nowadays I love him for his flamboyance and sassiness. But back then I didn't know what to do with it as a little kid. So I was like, okay, hula? No, I'm not taking that. And then I left grade school. I went to high school and I joined a Hawaiian club to learn Hawaiian songs to sing at our family luau. And I said to me saying this to the instructor, hello there, Mr. Lake. That was his name. I loved him. What an amazing, lovely man. Yeah, I heard about your group and I want to join, and I just want to sing. I don't want to dance the hula. And he said to me, in this group, we sing and we dance the hula. And if you don't like it, there's the door. Like, okay. I stayed, and after 2 weeks, I was hooked. I was like, holy moly, this is the best thing since peanut butter and jam without crust.
What was it that spoke to you?
I think because it was so multidimensional. And also, all right, I'm not an athlete. I'm not a football player or a baseball player, but I didn't realize I had some kind of coordination as a dancer. And also, while you dance, you have to learn the chants which accompany the dance. And in the chants, there are stories, right? About your past, about your history. So you're learning dance, you're learning history, you're learning how to speak. It's a very dimensional piece of work. And I was this little kid who wasn't doing very dimensional things growing up. So this felt something like it was full, it was rich, and it was something that I could do. And so it just won me over on many levels. And I knew after like a year that I was going to end up teaching this.
Let's leap forward to San Francisco, because that's where your career has been based. There was a lovely quote I read from a professor talking about your work, saying it was probably a good thing that you were based in California, because there, I think she said, he doesn't have the tradition police reining him in, which is a lovely idea. Is it easier to innovate the work, explore hula with a certain distance?
Yes. The answer is yes, it is. And you know what's funny? I was doing my own thing. I was doing whatever I wanted to do. And it was a friend of mine, another hula teacher, who came to visit. And he said to me behind my back, "It must be really nice doing what you want to do here in San Francisco without anybody else looking at your work and critiquing your every move." And I thought, damn, you know what? You're right. It has been freaking splendid. And I didn't even really think about that. And I was awoken and thought, yeah, I've been doing whatever the hell I want and getting away with everything because nobody's telling me, what the hell are you doing? I look back and there are some things I want to say to myself, what the hell are you doing? But I think it's important to even make those mistakes, if you want to call them that. It's important to even try to take risks and to recognize through your own volition that, oh, maybe that wasn't the best thing for me to do, or maybe that will lead me to something smarter. So, and I'm living in San Francisco. Of course, this quote I've said in every newspaper is because it's good. No one's going to look at you. They're going to look at the landscape. Move, you know. And that's one of the things I love about San Francisco. It was very bohemian, especially when I moved there in the 80s. It's changed now, but it's still wonderful. I still love San Francisco. But there was this sense of like freedom and liberation that you didn't really get anywhere else in the country.
Yeah. And was there a hula dance community that you could tap into, or is that something that you've built up?
Surprisingly so. I was gobsmacked because there was this underground community of like Hawaiians all over the place in Northern California, because many of them have moved from Hawaii to Southern and Northern California. So there was this like network of community. Oh, you got to know the Uncle Saichi, and then there's Auntie so-and-so, and we're going to go down there to the Lua. I'm like, what? Over here? It really was like this strange sort of network of local people running all over the place. And when you're away from home, you so much want the things that home has that you don't, right? And the people at home are looking at you like, oh, that's cute, you little mainlanders. You do your little hula and you sing your little songs. That's right. Stay in touch with the culture. Keep trying harder. Try harder. You just felt like the uncle who couldn't do it right for the longest time.
The fellowship, the MacArthur Fellowship, when that was awarded, praised both the work you've done as a preservationist and as an innovator. Are those two things ever in tension in your work?
Oh, David, you master of questions. Yes. That is a very good question, because that's sort of my life, actually. Like, Innovating and preservation, are they mutually exclusive or can they happen simultaneously? And the answer is, of course, they can happen simultaneously because I do preserve wonderful, beautiful dances and chants that were passed on to my teacher. And she says, don't change a damn thing, Patrick, when you teach it to your students. I will teach it like this, Auntie. Don't you worry. And I do. And I tell them to. This came from so and so, and this is how the motions were. We don't change. We do it exactly like it was taught. Then there's a whole nother collection of dances and music that I get to choose to create work that's, wasn't given to me, that I am manifesting and creating on my own. That does not have any rules beholden to it, so that it has to follow a certain prescription of movement. So they can both exist. And I think sometimes people run into trouble when they think that if you're going to be traditional, you can't do a hula to Roberta Flack's the first time ever I saw your face. Excuse me, but you can. So yeah, and I think my life has been sort of like the wane of what's traditional, what's innovative. Do I need to tell the audiences, or will the audience figure out for themselves? Audiences are pretty smart. They know that Cyndi Lauper is in Hawaiian, so maybe that song is not. But yet they can see the hula to it, because what does hula do? It gives the poetry, the chant, the song more dimension, more resonance. So, but it's still telling the story of that particular song. So you can see the words are matched to the movements, and it gives makes your experience broader and deeper.
You've done, of course, loads of different work with your company, Nā Lei Hulu I Kaweku, which I may or may not have mangled.
All right.
Apologies.
Close enough, David. Close enough.
I'll take it. One of the productions that I've been seeing clips of, and really good title apart from anything else, The Natives Are Restless, which is partly about the quite fraught relationship Hawaii has with the wider United States. I didn't really know this. I'm sure a lot of people don't know that it was an independent monarchy before it became part of the States. It wasn't.
Who knows that?
No, exactly.
Right. I know. It wasn't. Hawaii was an independent sovereign nation. Thank you to Britain, England, and the United States for acknowledging us. So it allowed us to get into the family of nation, the first non-European nation to be admitted. We had consulates over 90 places throughout the world. We were an independent sovereign nation. Now, how do you go from that to being annexed by the United States? Well, it's a long story, rather complicated one. Not really, actually. And I told it in a show. I made an epic hula drama about it because, of course, you want to go see a hula show that talks about colonization. No, we corrected that. It's occupation now. Thank you very much. So it's not your normal hula fanfare, but it's something that people should see. And frankly, Hawaii does not have a pretty history. So when you tell it, unfortunately, it's going to be hard. People don't want to hear it.
But in a way, dance and music can sneak in quite challenging political thought and ideas, can't it? Because they're so delightful to you come for the enjoyment.
Exactly. Right. You're exactly right. As one woman told me through an angry letter, I was expecting to see ukulele, pretty girls, and pretty flowers. And then I saw you running around the stage in the priest costume with a cross, brandishing it against it. Wow. Yeah, well, some hula shows are different from others. No, but yes, you're exactly right. Isn't art beautiful? Because it can perhaps bring you to its side by using a feather, perhaps sometimes, or a hammer. But through dance, through music, through expression of your body, you can perhaps educate people and change their minds. I have always thought that my main purpose as a hula teacher, as a performer, is not to educate. It's to entertain, really. That's my number one priority. But in the process of entertaining, if people get educated, then that's a good thing. So sometimes we have rather difficult subjects that are part of our shows.
Yes. And speaking of, there's a long tradition of gay men in dance, but that's not always an easy relationship, as very young Patrick could tell us. A couple of years ago, you did a piece, Mahu, with trans dancers. I'm wondering, how receptive is the hula community to exploring identity?
Well, one day I received a phone call, And the person said this: "Hello, my name is so and so, and I'm transgender, and I'm wondering if you accept transgender people into your halal. Can you please call me back?" And I thought to myself, what kind of world are we living in when someone who's transgender has to call me to ask if transgender people are allowed in a hula school? Yeah, they're allowed. I mean, we wouldn't even have thought twice about it. They've been there since the beginning of time, teaching us, loving us, taking care of us. Of course they are. Mahu is the term. And, they have been a part of hula since the beginning. So they have always been around. Some of them are very famous kumu hula. Some of them are my dear friends. So that's why I decided to do this show and to call it Mahu, which is the whole, and now that's taking all kinds of different meanings, but Mahu was the term once used as derision. And I really wanted to do a show to showcase the talents of some of my friends who are super talented. They're extraordinary, right? And I thought, we don't have to raise a flag and say, we deserve a place at the table, we're Mahu. All you have to do is do your thing. Sing, dance, tell stories. People will get it. And that's what they did. They told their stories, they sang and their dance, and you just fall in love with them. Now, the show was supposed to be 50 minutes in the first half, and they went on for an hour and 15. 50 minutes for the second half, they went on to an hour and a half. The next day, I was like, girls, you got to make Wikipedia that storyline. But this is the first time in any performance venue, they had the opportunity to talk about them and who they are and their life in their work. Because normally they're the background singers for the hula dancers, but I wanted them to be the front. I wanted them to be the headliners so that we gave them the stage so that they could tell their stories and sing their songs and win people over. And that's exactly what they did. People in San Francisco loved them. And then we went to Hawaii to do that show again, and it was over the top. It was just really phenomenal.
It's clear, Patrick, there are so many strands to your work. Performances, choreographing, the preservation of tradition. But it seems that sitting right at the centre of what you do is teaching. Has that always been the thing that grounds everything else you do?
It eventually got there. At one point in my early days, so my school is divided into two basic, big, chunky units. One is the performing company, and the other are the students who just want to take a hula class and who have been with me. They're beginnings, intermediates, and some of them are run up to 85, 86 years old, and they don't want to perform. They just want to have a regular hula class. And when Patrick was a little younger, he wasn't appreciative of that fact. He just wanted to work with the good dancers and just do all the fun stuff. And it was hard to be there during the middle of the weekend. Oh my God, these people are bringing me down. I was so grumpy and all of that. But all right, I'll teach. Being honest here and being honest. And then something switched. I really began to appreciate these people. They're the support of the entire halal. They're the ones who support the performers whenever they perform, whenever they need something. If I need 50 volunteers, I just make a phone call, boom, 50 volunteers. If I need that clean, that's clean. That's the power of community. People who are loyal and people who are invested in you because they love what you do, because you take care of them when you teach. And I've learned to be a kinder, gentler, loving, I call it a compassionate dictatorship. But I really feel very thankful for the myriad of people who are not the performers, they're just the stalwart members of the company. I'm so grateful to them. And I love teaching them in class now. I enjoy all the classes that I teach, as many of them as I can.
And hula is an art of wonderfully lyrical arms, impressively grounded feet. What is the biggest challenge for someone starting to learn hula?
I noticed a shift happened from when I was a dancer to when I started teaching in my dancers. And that is, there's something that we do in hula called an aiha'a, which is basically a plie. Feet together and you hunker down and you stay in that position. And from that position, you do other feet work, right? And then sometimes you stand up and do something, and sometimes you go back down. But I remember as a kid, is yelled the correct term? I'm not sure, but it was like you're always in aiha'a. You're constantly putting yourself down, lower and lower and lower. Does it feel good? Are you comfortable? Yes. You're doing it wrong. Get down. It's like, it's never comfortable. The aiha'a is never comfortable. If you're comfortable, you're doing it wrong. Okay. So, it was constantly pushing yourself down, because the beauty lies between where your aiha'a is and the iluna up here, and the space in between when you go up and down. And if your aiha'a isn't that low, then you just have a little space to move. And I noticed with my halau, I'm sorry, kids, I'm going to rat you out. Over the years, I finally one day looked at everybody and I said, what happened to the aiha'a? It's like I turn around and it's not there anymore. The aiha'a has left our halau. People look too comfortable. And I'm going to be honest about that. I got stuck on show after show after show after show. It became more important to worry about the choreography for all these different pieces that we were learning than that basic technique of that aiha'a, which Patrick sacrificed in order to do choreography. And it's like, so I will say to all those people who are going to take hula, especially the people in my new class coming up, the aiha'a is everything. Squat and stay there until your legs are screaming. And then stay there some more.
That is a real dance ethic, isn't it? If it isn't hurting, it isn't working. In any form of dance.
Which is really stupid when you think about it, because you don't want it to hurt. But yes, you do. You want it to hurt in the right places, not in your knees or your hips, but right in your legs and your quads and your calves and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And how do you know if you're a beginning dancer? Well, you'll know, you'll learn. But it is technique. And it's something that I had to remind myself. Mr. Traveling all over the place and trying to do this and that. Can't even do that. Aiha'a. Shame.
And apart from burning pain in their thighs, what is it that you're hoping to pass on to new and younger dancers? What is the core of hula for you?
So I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. And this took me, I've been doing this for my halau. My school will be celebrating its 40th anniversary next year. And the school that I dance with, and I still go back to, will be celebrating its 50th. What I've learned over these decades, especially being in San Francisco, because we're still connected to Hawaii, and I make sure that we are by visiting there often and taking things from there, bringing it back to San Francisco. But in some ways, we're still not quite with the mothership. We're a satellite dish out here. And what sustains us is, again, community. This community that we built, that where we take care of one another. When COVID happened, we immediately transitioned to Zoom, and I had to learn that on the fly, right? But fortunately, hula doesn't take up a lot of room, like ballet class where you'd be jumping and kicking all over the place in contemporary, right? Hula, you could do it in a little square box. But what we found out in that sort of time of fear and anxiousness and what the hell is going to be happening to us, we had what we call in Hawaiian a pu'uhonua, a place of refuge where you could be with one another. We could talk about how we felt, what was happening. We could share our experiences, our fears, and remind each other that we're there for one another, and still dance. And we kept that, on for 2 years. Okay, by the first year, people are like, okay, enough of this. We want to get back to class. But we were still, not quite ready yet. So, but it did sustain us early on. That community helped to weather us through something really, really difficult. So that's what hula is going to provide you if you stay with it for a while. I mean, it's so much, but community, and you tap into your community, open up to people, say hello, be friendly, and really be vulnerable in your approach to dancing, smiling, loving, kindness, compassion. All of those things work really well in hula. Well, in life, period, But when you're dancing together, there's something about harnessing the energy of 30, 40, 50 people all moving the same way and casting spells. With every glance, you could hypnotize the ocean. But Yeah, it's the communal feeling of what this offers us, and of course, put that with music and words and dancing together as a force. There's a force that happens. The words are magical, the music is magical, and then you get to harness all of that into your body. There is nothing better than dancing your culture. I'm sorry, painters. I'm sorry, sculptors. I'm sorry, everybody else in the other arts of art. But dancing your culture, singing those words, and moving your limbs into time and space with people around you, there is something about that that just lifts you and carries you and just provides you with such a rich feeling of humanity.
And hula is one of the great unison dances, isn't it?
It's really interesting, and I know that competitions, because hula competitions are big, especially the biggest hula competition in the world, which is Mary Monarch, people want to be as precise as possible. So that there's been a concerted effort to create that dynamic within a hula. And so the hula companies are, especially the good ones, they're on it. And when I look at other performances for professional companies and whatnot, I'm like, oh, you guys need to go to a hula class, because how do you maintain everyone looking the same way and everyone turning their hands and fingertips the same way? And from hula school to hula school, it's very idiosyncratic. The way you bend your wrist and turn your fingers could be so different than another school. If you've been a member of one school and you move to another one, trying to break you out of I don't want to say habits, but in order to dance with this company, you can't dance the way you used to with that company. You got to stop moving your fingers. You put your eyebrows down. You got to let your hips go out further. I mean, there's so many little idiosyncratic things that has to change. It's so difficult when you're coming from another group. When you're dancing together, you just automatically fall and click in. You don't even have to think about it. Your peripheral vision is ready to go, and turn to the right. Everybody here, turn to the. You can honestly feel people next to you moving the same way.
Patrick, I promise, coming to the end, I will let you go off into the night. The MacArthur grant, as I understand it, doesn't come with any conditions. You can spend it on whatever project you want and whatever you think is important. So when that $800,000 is finally spent, when you've burnt through it, what do you hope you'll have achieved?
Well, maybe some hair. Maybe a new bathroom for daddy. Maybe a few things like that. Actually, that's kind of funny you mentioned that, because I'm here in Hawaii right now, wasting no time on spending that money. I gave myself a month and a half sabbatical. So I'm on Hawaii Island. I'm working with a dear friend 10 blocks away on Olelo Hawaii Hawaiian language. He's awesome. I have another friend who's a historian, and another friend who's a budding kahuna. She's like out of this world. Fantastic. I have many friends on this island that I can sit and collaborate and just experience being here with them and drawing in that energy and just learning from them. And I gave myself that month and a half because I said, damn it, I want to fill myself up so that I can go back to San Francisco and fill those people up. And that's what I'm doing. And thank you, MacArthur. I didn't waste any time. Even before that first check came, I was already here doing the work.
Perfect. So finally, Patrick, here is the last question. Why does dance matter to you?
Why does dance matter? And again, I'm going to preface this by saying for those of us, well, the hell with anybody else, I'm just going to answer it myself. Why does dance matter? You might as well ask me, why does culture matter? Why does community matter? Why does history matter? Why does language preservation matter? Why does connection to our natural surroundings and living in a sustainable environment matter? Why do all those things matter? Because all of that gives us life. It gives us purpose. It makes us connected. It gives us humanity. And hula is the glue for me and many other people, even the people who are the satellites around our life, like my husband. We're all connected through it. We all have such richness. and some tough, hard moments that we need, challenges we need to like surmount. That comes with the package as well. It's not just all good stuff, but as a whole, it really, honestly, it will teach you how to become a better human being. Can't you tell?
I can tell. You don't get to be a genius, let alone a compassionate dictator, without some extraordinary journey. So that's a beautiful place to land. Patrick, thank you so much. Who knew genius could be so invigorating? Patrick was speaking to us from deep into a Hawaiian evening, but he's clearly a night owl, so he was fizzing away. It was a great ride of a conversation. If you, sweet genius listener, enjoyed hearing Patrick, do let us know on the RAD's socials, or by reviewing or liking us, or subscribing to Why Dance Matters. Details of the RAD's social media and of Patrick's work are in our show notes. Our guest today was Patrick Makuakane. Why Dance Matters is made by the RAD team of Niamh Carey Furness, Keisha Dodd and Katie Hagan, and our artwork is by Bex Glendinning. And our producer, Sarah Miles, she's our own resident genius. I'm David Jays. Take care and see you soon.